Good morning. I'm Cecile Phillips, serving as your chaplain this morning. Precious Spirit, we focus now on our prayer chest, where our friends and congregants have placed their prayer requests for this week. And we just take these and go inside to that quiet place of peace, where we feel our connection with Source and know that Spirit is already there in every situation, opening out the way and giving exactly what is needed. We are trusting and knowing for each of these requests that each soul will know exactly what the next right step might be. We thank you for always being there, for showing us the way, and helping us to know and feel your love and power that's always there for us. And we just say thank you, thank you, thank you. So it is.
Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I am waiting, yielded and still. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Search me and try me, Master, today. Whiter than snow, Lord, wash me just now, as in thy presence, humbly I bow.
I don't want Denise to go away just yet. We had a beautiful prayer by Cecile this morning, but I want us to stay in this energy for just one more minute. At Unity, we understand that it's time to listen to Spirit, time to listen to Source and see what comes through. So I invite you just to gently close your eyes now. Staying in this energy, staying in this beauty, this beautiful day, the gift from God. Meditation is a time for listening and being willing to expand our understanding, expand our consciousness of how great life is, to realize fully what abundance means. I ask you to bring into your consciousness, what might abundance be like for you? An abundance of love, relationship, spiritual awakening. Now take it down to the heart level. What does abundance feel like? Bring this feeling of God, the divine, into every cell of your body. That there is no such thing as lack unless we choose it. There's no lack of love available. There's no lack of many of the things that are important to us. So bring in that definition, that feeling of abundance for yourself. And then affirm the truth. I am abundant. That is the truth of us.
Till all shall see Christ only always living in me.
The word that came to your mind for abundance, with your eyes closed, feel free to say it into the room. What is abundance to you? What is the word? Yes. Friends, relationship, compassion, an abundance of compassion, optimism. Keep it coming. Generosity, what does that feel like? Don't just think it. What does generosity feel like? We feel our prayers at Unity of Dallas. What else? Health, an abundance of health, every cell of our body being abundantly healthy. What does that look like? What does that feel like in your life right now? Enthusiasm. Think enthusiastic and you will be enthusiastic no matter what situation has popped up that doesn't look like something to be enthusiastic about. We think it, we know it, we pray it. That is the truth. What else? Peace. Ah, let's rest in that. Let's rest in that, an abundance of peace. Can we bring gratitude to the knowing that peace is available in our hearts today? No matter what we came in to our sanctuary with today, peace is available. It is our divine inheritance. Let's spread that out and wrap this world in the truth of what peace means. We get our egoic mind, the adverse ego, out of the way. Step into peace. Step into truth. I invite you now to gently open your eyes. The word that you said, or the words that you said, now with your eyes open, send them to the stage. Send them to the world. Let it expand. Say it. Family, friends, joy, health, enthusiasm, peace, family, love. Take it in. It's one thing to read a book about it. It's another thing to speak it out and be that in the moment, even briefly. If you get a glimmer of it, that's where you are. You can start with that. And then you can step more deeply into the truth and the truth of the divine. Make that choice. Make that choice today. And while we're making that choice, enthusiastically, one more round of applause for Bob and the band, and Denise Lee. When we step into that infinite flow of abundance, where there is no lack, like Cecile prayed about today, anything can happen. And we didn't plan that. We didn't plan that. But it's always available, that feeling and that knowing of why we're here. You may have came in today without a true purpose or clarity about what is next for you to do. But I do know that it involves being abundant. And being abundant is what we're talking about this month. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have a few Sundays with this subject, and then the rubber hits the road for those of you that know Edwene Gaines, Reverend Edwene Gaines, we're going to be getting fired up here. She tells it like it is, and it's so funny, and just a wonderful unity minister, and has spoken worldwide about this subject. And then that'll lead us right into SEE week, where I'll be teaching absolute abundance, or we'll be having an experiential experience of abundance as we work together. It's not a lecture, it's a working together to take that vibration, to take that truth to a whole nother level in our life. So starting today on the 9th and going to October 7th, there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a shift. There's going to be an abundant shift in your own heart. And I don't care where you think you are with it. I don't care how many books you've read. Because that's what people say, well, I read that. I read those books. I read those unity books. Well, good. I'm proud of you. But are you telling me that you've reached your max? Your quota? You're like, yeah, I understand that God is infinite good and that there are no limits, but honestly, I've reached my max, for goodness. I can't do anymore. Well, you may be a master of abundance then, if that's the truth. I bet some of you, when I gave you that question of what does abundance mean to you this morning, maybe you got a little bit triggered. Maybe it didn't feel good because sometimes that's a sticky subject, especially in churches. You know, oh no, they're going to talk about money. Or oh no, why don't they talk about money? Or why don't they talk about this? Oh no. And maybe you have a definition of what it means to you, but maybe, like I said, we need to expand that. And I bet you're thinking, why didn't I just Google it? Swami Google. While I was praying and meditating, I could have pulled it out and looked at the definition of abundance and gave you a really smart answer. An abundance of smarts is what I want to prove to you, right? Well, you don't have to pull it out. You're reaching for your water, not a dictionary. Okay, good. I've got it right. I've got it right here. It's a noun. Webster Dictionary, noun. A very large quantity of something. Of all the sentences they could have said, a quantity of something. And here's the definition. I can appreciate this. The definite, they give a little example with their definitions. The tropical island boasts an abundance of wildlife. Yes, they do. Then it says the state of condition of having copious quantity of something. There it is. It's a miracle. The state of condition of having copious quantity, there's that word again, of something. Hoping the next month we can really, truly figure out what that something is. But I do know that abundance can be tricky. It can be tricks of the mind. Spiritual masters have talked about that for a very long time, this idea of prosperity and abundance, and it can be tricky. Now, the definition in the dictionary says flourishing financially, successful in material terms. Isn't that exactly the way it's normally used? People think of it, it's money. It's having all this material things. And maybe that's part of it, but that's just energy, that's just stuff. So then I went to the metaphysical dictionary, and it says the difference between spiritual prosperity, this is the difference right here, the difference between spiritual prosperity and the material idea of prosperity is that spiritual prosperity is founded on understanding of the inexhaustible, omnipresent substance of spirit as the source of supply. So that's the difference. So when Cecile was saying everything is available in spirit, that means that wherever we are, maybe in our lack thoughts, that's just us choosing that. That's not really the truth. That's not really what is happening. So Charles Fillmore talks about here that man has to lay hold of that and truly understand it and move beyond the things that's just part of it to be prosperous. Like I said, the spiritual masters have talked about this, and there's a lot in the Bible, actually, to learn from. And my favorite is this next quote right here about abundance. The thief cometh not but to steal, but to steal and to kill and to destroy. I come so that they may have life and have it more abundantly, is what the master teacher said. So this is interesting to me because talking about the thieves, in fact, in the Message version, which is sometimes fun to read, the Message version gives it more of a literal prose here where it says, Jesus told this simple story, but they had no idea what he was talking about. They didn't have the Webster Dictionary to go to, had no idea on the Sermon on the Mount where he gave this. And he said, okay, well, that story didn't work. So let me tell you another story. And he was so good at telling stories because, like I say, it disarms people, doesn't it? Stories. It's sort of the objections to the subject can sometimes drop away if people can get into the story. So he continues. And he says, I'll be explicit then. Pay attention. I am the gate for the sheep. All those others are up to no good. Sheep stealers, every one of them. But the sheep didn't listen to them. I am the gate. Anyone who goes through me will be cared for, will freely go in and out and find pasture. A thief is only there to steal, kill, and destroy. I came so that they may have real life, more and better life than they ever dreamed of. How often do you spend time saying, well, what is the most I could possibly dream of? Of all those words that you said earlier, what would that be like? What gets in the way? A few things. Metaphysically, real simply, right here, the thievery. But it's hopefully nobody robs you. But you know what? Nobody can rob you of the things we talked about what abundance really is. Nobody can rob you from that. Nobody can steal that. But who can? You can steal it from yourself. We call that the thievery of thought. Where we start thinking these things, we start telling ourselves a story that's not even true. It's not the truth of the situation. And it's definitely not the truth of you and who you are. That's called judgment. That's called negative judgment. So when we talk about this month, when we start looking at ways of what can we do to sort of sweep away the things that get in our way of abundance, judgment would be one of them. I like what Jack Cornfield says here. He says, embedded in expectation is a tremendous amount of judgment. Have you ever noticed that? You start setting your goals and you have all this expectation. And then when they don't come true, you kind of beat yourself up and things get a little bit sideways. He says, comparing ourselves and falling short. We read about these great success stories and feel we have not succeeded. We internalize criticism. Have you ever done that? We internalize criticism from our teachers and our parents, and we try to figure out that age-old question. What is wrong with us? I added the age-old question part, but it is. What is wrong with us? When somebody that you respect looks at you with love through their lens that you are perfect, when they see who you really are, don't you feel the abundance? Don't you know it then? They're looking through all that other stuff. They're not judging, just looking eyeball to eyeball. That leaves quite an impression. That magical display of life is what I wrote down, that I like to call it. Magical display of life. Not looking at you like you're imperfect, right? Like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, the perfect peaches and the imperfect peaches, and one costs more, one costs less. And she's like, "What? Just give me these peaches. I don't care." Imperfect. What is your practice of seeing yourself and others with pure light and beauty? What is your practice? Because that's a big part of this abundance training and education, is practicing it. What is your practice of seeing yourself that way? So it's much more than financial. That's the easy part, actually. Going from here to there and having what you need, and financial part to fulfill your dreams. We can teach that. That's no big deal. That's the easy part. The hard part is when somebody like Nelson Mandela walked out of prison after 27 years with compassion and forgiveness, which is what a couple of you said for your definition. That's what he did. And what happened? He changed, totally changed South Africa. And stoked the imagination of the world. You can do that. But you got to do it in your heart. That display of life, you got to do that in your heart first. And what's the spiritual tools? Because the way I look at it, it's like a garden. It's like a garden. It's like, what seeds are you putting out there? How are you fertilizing that ground? How are you doing that in your life these days? It's a practice. But the judgment first has to fall away. I went to a pastor's summit the other day at Watermark Church, and they were talking about how millennials are not going to church anymore, and it was a little bit of a conference about that, and how they're going to have churches are coming together to have thousands, tens of thousands go to the motor park, something that's coming up and whatnot. And the first speaker got up, and it was amazing. Pete went with me because he's helping us with our young adults. And so the first guy got up, and he one of the things he did is says, how many of you remember Yahoo? Who uses Yahoo anymore? You use Yahoo? So he pulled it up on the screen, and he typed this in. He said, how come Christians, just that much? And you know how it does, it comes up on all the search results come up, and how come Christians do this? How come Christians do that? How come Christians da-da-da-da-da? And guess what the first thing was? Judge. How come they judge me? Powerful, I thought. Very interesting. They want to know why people aren't going to church? That, part of it. So there we go, conference is over. But lo and behold, would you believe that the second, nothing against, I just don't resonate with it. I mean, the second pastor got up and started preaching to us, down to us, and started judging us. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm looking around going, oh, they're just going to kind of show why people are leaving the church. But he never got around to it. I mean, and then it just became all Satan's fault. That's a scapegoat to me. Because if there's one presence, one power truly active in my life, I don't have to worry about that. That was a good Southern amen. Thank you. Gratitude shows us in our oneness that the God stuff, that in our physical form, we are made, each of us, of the God stuff. So when your friends, I want you to see the divine. And I want you to see it in gratitude. And that is the first step of abundance for me. And I got to tell you, I was resistant to doing a month on abundance. I was resistant to talk about abundance at all, I got to be honest, because I don't feel like I'm a master of it. I feel like I've done some really good things with it, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to go there. And every time I would pray, it was like, you're going there. You ever have that happen? And I'm like, yeah, but there's so many books, and so many people have talked about it. What am I going to? So finally, this week, I went into prayer, because I'd already committed to doing it, right? I talked about that a couple weeks ago. Create it, step into it outside maybe your circle of comfort, and do it, and you'll rise to it if you practice the spiritual laws. So anyway, I'm meditating there. We have a new place now, and it's out there in the country. So I may be saying words like folk pretty soon, and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, what route? You know, there's so many programs and everything. So I went into prayer, and what came to me was just teach them what you know. Teach them what has worked for you. Don't make it difficult. Practice KISS. Do you know what that means? Keep it, they say stupid, simple, right? Simple, stupid, whatever. Well, I don't like the word stupid, so I just saying it, keep it simple, sweetheart. Amen. Keep it simple, sweetheart. And I said, what has worked for me? So the first thing was absolutely the Spirit. So here's our foundations. And I don't care who you are, where you are in abundance. It's really hard to enjoy it if you cannot practice this first step. Because don't you know a lot of people that seem to have a lot of prosperity or a lot of material things, but have very little abundance? And some people that seems to have, they have so little prosperity, but they have big abundance. Ever notice that? But in this definition, if your thoughts are not being stolen and allowing that to happen, then your dreams, he said, abundant, don't kill off your thoughts. You can have the best life that you've ever dreamed of, and the best can be ahead. But I don't know how to do it without this, an attitude of gratitude. So as I'm thinking about this, I came out of my meditation, and divine synchronicity, synchro divinity, whatever you like to call it, happened. It struck right then. The guy who created Absolute Abundance, the SEE elective course, Ken Daigle, I haven't texted him. We traded a couple emails about the course, and I knew I wanted to do it because Reverend Gio and other reverends on the West Coast actually are like, oh, this is amazing. This is so good. It's benefited so many people. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. What is it? So I got the manuals and everything. But I'm sitting there, and I've never texted Ken, but all of a sudden, he texts me right after this meditation, and he says something with a picture, and I like that. He has a picture he sends me of something we talked about at the conference a few months ago, a picture of his new baby, 5 days old. It was premature, a preemie, so they didn't know. They were very highly anxious about what the situation could be. But all of a sudden, this miracle happens. Now, I only thought I was abundant before, but when I look into my baby, when I look at her eyes, look down at her, I'm getting chills, I'm getting God bumps everywhere, then I know what abundance really is. This week I got to give her first bites. Thank you for letting me do it. First bites. And what I noticed about this baby, abundance, boy, she's this new people food thing. And when putting the fork in, and it's really funny because she's trying to figure it out, just like we are our whole life, right? We're trying to figure it out. And she can't quite figure out that you don't put your fist in first and then the spoon. So we went a little further, and then I noticed she was kind of like scooping it in. She'd kind of get there, and she'd get it in her mouth, and say, oh, it tastes better if I can touch it a few times, and then get it. And then, but before long, I'm telling you, smart little nugget that she is, she grabs it and says, I got this. And I'm like, no, you don't. She goes, I got this. And she began to go like this with it, and it took her a few times, and she was wearing it. I'm like, that's okay, it's America, and Daddy wears his food too. It's okay. And she put it in there, it was good, and she just loves it. But I'm just like, what a life. What a life. I mean, in Matthew it talks about what are we worried about? What are we anxious about? You're worried about food, he told his disciples? You're worried about food and clothes? The lilies in the field, and not the movie. The lilies in the field. The lilies in the field do not toil, they don't spin. I don't know what the difference is. But the point is, don't be anxious. What are you anxious about? What are you worried about? If you step into the truth of the moment, there's really not that much to be worried about. Now, I know that we have loss. We have these human experiences. I know you may have had somebody you love pass away, and I get that, and I understand that. That hurts. But we somehow got to move back into this field. And I know I sound like a master right now. But guess what? I'm not. But I'm committed to it. I'm committed to it. This morning, I got a chance to show that, when I came out into the garage and I looked down and I saw this flat tire, I did not go into my reverendship. I did my holy, or as Larry Combs calls it, your holy ship. I did not go there and jump up and down and spit BBs and say, I'm abundant. This is beautiful. Thank you, flat tire. It was my first time to drive here myself on a Sunday morning. So I was a little concerned about that. Started feeling a little anxious. Then I get outside and I'm driving. Oh, well, I did the next best thing. I just went and stole her car. All right, just thievery right there. I just went and grabbed her keys. Did you hitchhike? I don't know how. No, I know Luna brought you. And so anyway, I'm driving down the street, and all of a sudden, my brain, we have this strategy mind, which is a beautiful thing. That's a gift. I have this strategy mind going. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to strategize how to get this flat fixed and all that. And I'm like, it's raining. It's not supposed to be raining today. People in Texas don't like to drive in the rain. Is anybody going to show up today? And then I get to thinking about other things and things, serious, like, is the new Cowboys kicker going to be able to kick a field goal today? He's never kicked in a game. And I know you guys were up about that last night too. Anxious, wringing your hands. I saw you back there. Important stuff like that. So there's a fine line between strategy and monkey mind. So I went into this whole monkey mind deal, and I missed my turn, right? So then I back up, get on my turn, and finally, when I'm on the highway, I'm like, what am I worried about? It's all right here. I am abundant. That is the choice point. That is the point that I have to get back into the truth, not let my thoughts be robbed, and say, life is good. Look at this. Look at this. So the first thing I do, and you might do it if you're in traffic or whatever, what is in the foreground? What is right there? If you're in traffic, what if you just stopped and said, look at the kids playing? Looked at everything going on. So I looked off, and the sky, when I got out on the highway and paid attention, above the skyline, the sky was breaking. It was beautiful. The sun was coming up. And it was gorgeous. So I get here, and I'm just in the zone. I'm in the flow. I'm feeling good. I get in, and guess what? The printer won't work again for the second week in a row. And when it finally did work, it printed all these papers. It printed like 57 papers. I was like, what is this stuff? So I had to go highlight my outline that was only going to be a page. And then again, but I stayed. You know what I did? I do what we call rolling the dice of abundance. The rolling the dice of abundance. When you roll the dice of abundance, one part says good, one part says better, the other part says best. It only gets better. See, that's the divine paradox. How do you have a goal and how do you have gratitude at the same time? Well, you can, because if you're in your truth, even though you're setting goals for abundance, that's okay. But it's the expectations, like Jack Kornfield talks about, that gets us in trouble, because we may get to here and we just get sideways, we just get frustrated. We feel like other people are throwing us off our path. Oh, I'll never reach that. And we start having that feeling in here, in our stomachs. My goal is for the Cowboys to score a touchdown. But they may get a first down, I hope. And that's really good. That's really good. Things in your life are good. Roll the abundance dice. And when I did that, I thought about these brown-eyed daisies or Susans or whatever they are. What are they called? Susans. See, I got it. Very good. I thought about the beauty. I went to there. So I kept elevated my abundance in that moment. All the way until Robert brings me the little flash drive that I'd given him, that we do the PowerPoint with. And he comes back, and he's holding it up, and he just goes like that. Now, that's never happened before, so I didn't know what that meant. I knew it couldn't be good, because it's not here. The PowerPoint that Luna and Tyler put together, not there. And so, right there, I'm getting better at it. Time to roll the dice, the abundance dice, and win. And we handled it with humor. We just started laughing and talking about something funny. Do you have enough? Did anybody say that earlier? Abundance of laughter, abundance of humor. I feel like that we need to put Post-its on our faucet and thermostat. I'll tell you what I mean. In 2005, Katrina happened. You guys remember Katrina? 1.5 million people without power, displaced. Do you remember that? I went down and I shot a documentary on it the day after it happened. I was there for a couple weeks. And I remember sleeping, laying in bed, full of sweat. But in the back of my head, I was thinking, oh, that's okay. I'll get a cold shower in a few hours. No, there was no water. Do you ever have a situation like that to remind you of being grateful for the things like that? We had it this week, our first time our power went out, and we, have people coming over and neighbors, and what are they going to do if they get over and say, well, this is a nice house, how come you don't have any lights? So it's easy to start worrying about it. Got to shift back. Yeah, how come you didn't pay the bill? You only been here a week. The other neighbors have power. So I feel like we need to put Post-its on our thermostats and our water faucets and say, thank you. I appreciate you. Put a Post-it on your neighbor, on their forehead. Thank you for your smile. Thank you for your love. You can do a metaphysical Post-it. The next thing is I am committed to my intentions. You see, you got to have commitment for any of this to work. You can't just come on a Sunday and say, well, yeah, that's a good idea to be grateful and everything. But you have to really level up. That's what we've been talking about this year. Level up your intentions and your commitment. Set intentions. I intend to do this. The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer, amazing book. But be committed to your spiritual practice. The next thing is, I am a good steward. What are you a good steward of? Your thoughts, I hope. So now all of a sudden you're being grateful, you're being committed, but now you're a steward over your thoughts, not letting those be stolen, just like maybe your possessions. You're also a good steward of things like your finances. One thing I have the awesome responsibility of doing each and every week is looking over our budget and seeing where we are at Unity of Dallas, doing the business side of things, not procrastinating it. Then the board looks at what I do. And then the board looks at, what is our policies? Are we doing our policies? Do we need to create a new policy? And then we look at things like also with stewardship, what are we doing with our treasures? On the back page, on the other side of the page, you can take a look at some of the things we're doing. It's a good reminder. It's a good reminder of what we do to help others. That's important for each of us individually. One of the things on there is North Dallas Shared Ministry, where we give several $1,000s a year, many thousands, to people, to families that need a step up. They need help. They need health care. And that's what North Dallas Shared Ministry does. But there's many different places that we help to be good stewards, to be in that flow of sowing seeds. I want to garden at my new place. But what seeds am I going to put into it? What seeds are we putting out into our community? How are we taking care of those? So the next sentence is, speaking of stewardship, Ann Sadowski, a.k.a. Grand Ann, she came into my office between services, and she gave me this. And she put it in my hand, and we did a prayer. And I opened up my hand to see what it was. I was like, a penny, what is that? No, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. Shiny penny she found on the floor. In fact, did a prayer. And I don't remember exactly how you said your prayer, but it's a prayer of increase. And if like the master teacher said, it is all there. If there is no lack, it's all within us. It's all God stuff. Then anything you find, my dad used to do this. He would say prosperity everywhere. See, that's an intention. That's being committed to intention. And it's paying attention, the fact that you saw it. Okay, so the last sentence or the next sentence is, I am prosperous. Write that down. I am prosperous. Yes. Amen. Caden's in the house. She just said it. I am prosperous. Some of you, anybody ever take 4T? Remember that? The 4T program? That's part of what you do. You said it 100 times a day, which seemed kind of silly at first. But then I started having fun with it. I'd be driving down the street and go, I am prosperous. Just having fun with it because I want to feel the prayer. I want to feel the affirmation, right? And amazing things started to happen. It's just so interesting the way this universe is set up. I am prosperous. And earlier I asked you, I said, for me to have plenty of abundance, I have plenty of what? And you gave a word. Maybe that word's changed for you. But did you put this on your refrigerator and you study it every day and you look at it? I have plenty of. And then the last thing on here is I leave a good, lasting impression. You see, this is part of abundance too. Last week, after the service, a new person came up and she hugged me. And I was like, oh, you're a hugger too. That's great. We like to hug at Unity of Dallas. And I heard it like 12 hugs a day is what the doctor says and blah, blah, blah. I don't really know what the number is, but she told me. She goes, no, you're wrong. It's 16 hugs a day. I was like, okay then. 16 hugs a day. But that was a lasting impression. When you are eyeball to eyeball with somebody, eyeball to eyeball, and you're shaking their hand, or you're hugging, or you're telling them about your spiritual path or your God, it's not as much what you say, it's the lasting impression you give. Well, there's no, you never get another chance to leave a first impression or however it goes. That's good. But what's your lasting impression? Today, if you are brand new, if you've been here one time today, or 2 times, or 3 times, or you haven't been here, somebody last week hadn't been here in 30 years. If you haven't been here in a good while, we want to make sure that you get a packet that says who Unity of Dallas is. And a few of our ushers will have them in the back as you leave. But then we want you to go to the lasting impression table. Today is the first day we're doing this. It's a chance to talk to some Unity folks and just hang out, ask questions. If you got 3 minutes or 30, just stop by there to get that hug in, just to say hello. And above anything else, if that doesn't work for you, then you can have world-famous keto brownies. Rick Horsey's famous brownies. They're actually keto. They're gluten-free, and they're absolutely delicious. All right? So do that with us. But today, think about all of you, about what opportunity do you have to spread the abundance of your heart? Cecile told me a story. Last week as we closed up, she told me an abundance story. And I said, hey, will you write me that? And she thought I was kidding. So during the week, I said, hey, what was that story you told me? And I don't have time to read it all, but I'll tell you the first story that she told me. She said, I'd lost my job. The business closed down after 27 years. I lost my job. And all of a sudden, I felt compassionate toward my grandchild and that was being abused, and invited that grandchild to come live with us, and we took over the custody. Once I lost the job, though, there was one day I came home not knowing how am I going to do dinner? How am I going to do supper? Don't have the money. Walked in, grandchild, he was back there in the bed, and he reached, laid back, and felt something in a crack in the bed. Pulls out a $50 bill. Now, the logical mind says that's impossible. We don't have those around this house. But she had prayed right before she went into the house. She had prayed for it. And she gave me all these other stories that have come true. What is your prosperity story? What's your abundance story? I would love it if you emailed me. It could be little or big. If you don't want it used in a service, you can tell me. But I want to know it. So let's all reframe what abundance is. Let's come together and make this an incredible month and shape it. Shape your own story for abundance. Thank you today. God bless. Namaste.